somebody who's not a father for this instance. Him, but I would like pretty much do whatever he says. And so I feel like it's like the same thing in that essence of like glorify God. Like if he's gonna do something or if he's gonna tell you to do something, you're gonna want to do it. And that I think is like glorifying or like praising or like does that make sense?
In the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
God not just our purpose, but it's also commands that within our life, we're supposed to live all things to the glory of God. Through our work, it should be an act of worship towards Him.
Yeah.
And it should make Him look great. Do you agree with that?
I would say so. Like I don't think he says, "Oh, do it to make me look great," but I think it does.
So, if God is all-powerful and He's the most satisfying being in the universe, wouldn't it be logical that He would desire that all of our satisfaction rests in Him? You know what I mean?
What do you mean by that? I'm a little confused.
So a lot of times whenever I'll say to someone, God wants to be glorified, they'll say that's a little, God sounds like an egomaniac.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think God sounds like an egomaniac if He's desiring to be glorified?
If we read it in that context, yeah. That's what it sounds like. I don't believe that, but I don't believe that's the way it was intended to be read, but I believe that's what we read it as sometimes.
Okay. What do you think is the best way to glorify God?
I think really just by living our best lives, doing our best and trying to help people, and really just, not all of us believe in God, but I believe that He wants us to do certain things because it'll help us be happy, and which therefore helps Him to be happy. Just proud of us, you know what I mean? So like by doing good things, He has commandments, what we would call, and so those are usually good things that help other people, like love one another. So that's the first great commandment. First great commandment, is to love God. Second is to love one another as yourself. So like to do those two things, I think those glorify God. They help us with our purpose, and they also help us be happy.
So I believe that we glorify God through the things that we do, and the way that we feel in terms of being satisfied in Him. That makes me wonder, if you've got someone that rejects the existence of God and would therefore not have peace with God, how can they glorify God through even when they do good things? Mm-hmm. So even if they do devote their life to helping the poor, but they don't do it in the name of God, but they do it for themselves and their own enjoyment, does that glorify God?
I think sometimes just because our intentions aren't to do something for something, I think it will still glorify. Just like, I actually don't have a good analogy right now in my mind. I'm not the best with words, but I do believe that like sometimes even without intending to do something, we still do it. And sometimes that's for good, sometimes that's for bad. Like sometimes you don't intend to hurt somebody's feelings, but you do it anyway. And I think the principle is similar. I'm not like perfect at expressing that, but
I think fundamentally though, glorifying someone is to make them look great.
Yeah, I think so.
So if someone is doing good things but not for God and they reject God, I don't see how it's possible that they can make God look great through the things that they do. And that would in turn mean that there's a separation between them and God, that they're not at peace with God. So what would you say to someone like that that's in that state? What advice would you give to them?
What advice would I give to them? That's a good question, because one of my favorite, and I'm not trying to like run around anything, but like one of my favorite things is when people, quotes I guess, is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So really, most of the time, if I'm not gonna try to make them believe in God or anything really, I'm just gonna let them know that I care. And I believe that in a way is showing God that I love Him, but also that I love His children. And I think that's gonna do them more impact than me trying to make them believe. I don't know if that was quite your question. I don't think it was, but I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, and that makes me kind of have another question. So the question is, how is someone to be saved?
How is someone to be saved? That's a good question. So in the scriptures, we read a lot of different things. Christ says, follow me. And we know Christ was baptized. Christ gave commandments. Christ did all these things. So it's logical if we're to follow Him that we're also to do the things that He did, I believe.
So do you think like by doing those things you are saved, or is there like salvation and then those things happen, or does they go hand in hand?
I think it kind of goes hand in hand, because obviously if we just do good things, but we don't have any like real intent, does it really make a difference? You know, but I don't feel like that if we just say we believe, then we actually believe because we're not doing anything. In James 2:17, I believe, it says faith without works is dead, being alone. So it's kind of like hand in hand. You need to have faith, but you need to do good things too, but you're not going to be saved because you do good things, if that makes sense.
So would you say that you're saved by grace and works?
I would say that's a fair statement. That's a cool job. It's a great job.
We have been saved by grace
Mm-hmm.
through faith.
After all we do.
Not of our works, unless any man should boast.
Uh-huh.
So basically saying our works have absolutely no bearing on our salvation whatsoever.
And I think that's where it becomes fuzzy, obviously, because in my mind, the Bible was translated many times, right? So from different languages and stuff like that. So there's not really one clear translation, and there are some contradictions, actually. So what can make it hard. I don't believe that scripture is saying there is no correlation. I believe that it is saying, and that's why I say it's hard, because you need to interpret it a little bit differently. But I have to read it to know for sure. I'm not an expert. Like, I'm not going to pretend here I know everything, because I don't. And I'm trying to learn every day. But I would say that kind of what I said, they go together, although it's not dependent on your works.
Come across, say, someone that rejects God, and you were to give them maybe something to think about,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you were to give them the gospel or the truth or a way in which they were to be saved. And I think you'd mentioned, what was it exactly you said? Something about doing good works, but through the way that you carry yourself, through your love, you maybe can develop a relationship with them, and then, sow truth into them through that. Does that
Possibly.
seem like roughly what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's not my necessarily responsibility to make sure they feel that, but if it happens, it's a good thing.
Okay. So I guess really what I'm really trying to get is, what is fundamentally, though, what is it that saves a person?
What is it?
So when they stand before God on Judgment Day, if God were to ask him, why should I allow you to enter into heaven? What is the only correct explanation that they could give?
They know the secret answer. The secret answer. If you know the secret answer, you're in.
What's the correct answer? What is the
Say
way in
please.
which
Say
they
please.
enter into heaven?
That's a really good question. And I mean, there's a lot to go into, but I would say if we're like just going fundamentally, we're all different. And I believe there are requirements, like we said, follow me. I think the essentially is, did you do your best? And if you did your best to follow me, make the rest work out.
Because if you were to say to God, I followed you the best that I could, I did all these things, that would in a way be boasting. It would be saying, through my works, I can gain peace with you. And there seems to be a bit of a contradiction there. And,
Maybe.
And I would say the biblical answer that you would or should give to someone is that when you're standing before God on Judgment Day, it's not by anything I've done, but what Christ has done on my behalf.
Absolutely.
Let me be cloaked in his righteousness. You know what I mean? So
it's definitely through Christ. I believe, like Christ, it's like the scriptures. Through Christ we are saved. After all we can do, like it's absolutely.
Is that the Book of Mormon?
I don't remember. I thought it was in Romans. I thought it was in Romans. Philippians. It's Philippians.
All we can do. That's
Yeah.
in the Book of Mormon. That's not the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what
I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's in
It's
Philippians.
in Philippians.
I think it's in Philippians.
My ex-girlfriend has it written on a quote
Well,
in her wall.
After all you can do, that's added in.
Really?
It depends on the translation you're reading, because there are lots of different translations of the Bible. Like I said, it makes it hard.
I'm not trying to butt in here, but it's really not, because it goes against the entire core of Christian belief and what we believe. The whole entire Bible says not just one verse.
Possibly. He'll look it up.
That's okay.
And that's okay. It doesn't matter what it's from, really, I don't
So
believe.
I want to give you a few more things to think about.
Absolutely.
So Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man can come to the Father.
Absolutely.
It's a very exclusive statement.
Yeah.
So when you come across someone that rejects God and doesn't know God, and you were to give them the words of life, it would be Christ. Turn to Christ, run to Christ, repent, and put your faith in Him. He is the only way. And so whenever you stand before God on Judgment Day, and God will hypothetically say, why should I lie unto men? The only biblical explanation would be through Christ. Because Jesus had said, many will come to me on that day and they will say, Lord, Lord, have I not done many mighty works in your name? And he'll say, depart from me, you evildoer, for I never knew you.
Correct.
So he'll say that to people. He'll say, I never knew you. Just because you can say you know God doesn't mean that he knows you. You have to have a relationship with him.
Yeah, and that's not what I was saying.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Okay, I understand.
I might not have
it's
said it well, but
Sure.
I mean, God doesn't just listen to our words. He knows our hearts.
Right, exactly.
And so it really doesn't, God, if we're really talking about God and how powerful he is, he really doesn't have to ask you anything. He'll just know.
Sure, but then also like when you go off of works, like when we're talking about you're saved by works or by grace alone, like through faith, it's not of your works. For us to stand before God and say, like, look at all the good things I do, in Isaiah it says our works are filthy rags before God. Like, he doesn't want any of them.
Well, we don't. That's not what we do. We don't go and say, look at our works. We
But
don't
then
have to
isn't
show
it,
him.
if in a sense, like, if we're
Our works
if
are just
we're
how
if
we
we're
live our
holding
life.
on to like oh, it's grace plus my works, like we're holding some weight of our works in salvation.
No, it's just to say that you have to try. Because you can say, oh, I have faith, but I'm just going to sit in my house and do nothing. And I have faith and I believe, but I'm actually going to be really rude to all these people. Do you think that that's fair?
No. Like what I mean is like a person that's been saved and truly regenerated, they'll be saved, but it's not through their works at all. So they'll be saved truly by grace, but as a result of their thankfulness,
They will have
works will
And that's what the
naturally
scripture
progress.
says.
But I won't, like when I die one day and stand before God, I don't want any of my works because they're useless to God. I'm going to be standing completely saying, no, it's through Jesus alone.
Absolutely.
It's his righteousness that I can enter into heaven alone.
And you
not
know what?
any of my works, but because I love God and I'm so thankful because I saw that I was a wretch and he saved me, then I'm going to want to talk about these things
absolutely.
and like, do good works.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think you're right on that point for sure. I think we're kind of trying to say the same things in different ways. Because when I said I did my best to follow you, as in to follow Christ, to follow the way, it might have sounded like it wasn't intending to, hey, look at me. It was because of the same exact thing you're saying, because you did it, right? And that's not to say that I'm the reason I get to heaven. You don't get to heaven because of yourself. It's all through Christ. And that's what you're saying beautifully. Like, you guys are saying that better than I'm saying that. And so I can learn for you for sure. But I don't think the core of what our intent is any different, honestly. Like, we both believe that we need to be good people, but we both believe that it's through Christ and only through Christ. And so I believe that.
So like that verse you brought up, Mormon, where it was saying like, after all you can do.
Did you find that verse?
I didn't look
It's
It's all right.
So just to ask you about that, that wouldn't be really saying that wouldn't really be saying you're saved by grace alone if it's after all you can do. You see what I mean?
It's like, I think that comes from the book of James where it says that
That's
it's
different.
faith without works is dead.
Right, but
Because faith it's a verb, right? It's action. As you show your faith by your works, I think that's what he was saying.
That's what.
I have a question. If I say right now, I love you, right? That doesn't mean much. It's just kind of weird and a little bit awkward, right? Because I don't know you. I don't know anything about you, right? Like, love is proven through action. So if you want to prove someone you love them, then you're like genuinely interested.
It's like, yeah, you're right. Like going off of James, where it says like you're. So okay. So like when he's talking about James, when he's saying like faith without works is dead, that's true. It's because by grace that I love God, I have peace with God, that it's salvation. Like if I say, oh, I've been saved by grace, like I have all this head knowledge, but my life does not resemble that I love Christ. Obviously, I don't actually love Christ because I just say it, but my heart doesn't show it. But my good works don't save me. It's like a natural overflowing of everyone loves her. Yeah, well, I mean it's a natural progression, but it's not rooted in my salvation at all. Hi, sorry, yeah, welcome. You can join in. It's fine.
And it was actually Second Nephi, so you're right.
Yeah. I don't care if you're right. I
No,
just
I'm.
in the Bible.
I doesn't have to be right, but absolutely. I don't have a wallet. I do. I could.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess not. Well, actually, all you can do is really actually hard. Because if you think about it, we still have to provide for ourselves, or else we will not be here. So we have to provide for ourselves. Correct. Oh, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Well, and if we were required to be perfect, that wouldn't be right. No, that's not what it's meaning. No. After all you can, yeah. I'm just saying, after all you can do doesn't mean you have to be perfect. After all you can do just means after all you can do. If you have a hard time, like who's perfect here? Are you kidding me? Like none of us are perfect. And so if we're trying our best, we're still not going to be perfect. And if that's how we interpret the scripture, we will live a miserable life. I'll say that. That's not how what the scripture means. And that's not what it means.
Okay.
That's okay though.
There's a lot of your prophets that would disagree with you. I can't quote them off the top of my head, but they say
No.
that is what it means. Okay.
They say they do not say that you have to be perfect.
No, they're not that you have to be perfect, but that it was after all that you could do. You have to
That is what. But you are misinterpreting it. That's okay. Argue. We're not here to argue.
I was just telling you that this is something that I
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you used to be Mormon? Where's all like your interest coming from in that church? Yeah, in the religion.
I actually have friends that are Mormon, and then I took a class, and my pastor literally said you can go on Mormon.org and order up a couple of missionaries and they'll come to your house. And so they did.
Yeah.
And so for like 4 months they were there every week, and then they left, and then more Mormons came. They would talk to them. And so I had to delve into what the Mormons believe and what the differences that we believe. Of course, we believe in the Trinity. And Jesus Christ is God. So what made you be Mormon?
Jesus Christ is God.
Wait, do you believe in 3 separate beings?
No.
Oh, okay.
The Bible says that there's one God, but then
Yeah.
he's in 3 distinct different persons. He's equal to each other.
Wait, so there's 3 or 1?
There's one.
Okay.
It's one God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They manifest themselves in
It's
3
like-
different.
Wait.
It's not manifest.
You did say 3 days.
But there's the whole scene where there's a dove, right?
Yes.
So he's in
3
3.
distinct. Hebrews 1 verse 5, when the Father is talking, and he's talking about, and he says, "Oh God, your throne will live forever." God the Father is telling that to the Lord, to Jesus.
So I'm confused. Do you believe they're one
Talking to
person?
himself.
There's one Godhead. Yes.
One Godhead. Yeah, we believe that. But if I'm just confused because you're saying God is talking to Jesus, who is God.
You
So
believe
God
in-
is talking to himself. I don't understand.
We do. Well, we don't totally get it either. We just go off of what the Bible says, right?
Well-
it says in it says in John that all things were created through Jesus, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. In the beginning, who created the heavens and the earth?
God.
God, right?
Good point.
So, but there's one God. But it says over 60 times in the Bible that there's only one God. How do you justify the two?
Godhead. Like you said Godhead earlier. And so I do believe it clearly says that there are 3 distinct individuals. I believe there's one Godhead with one purpose.
That's
This is just for fun.
belief is that there's not one individual with one purpose. They're all solely united in that same purpose.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea of God.
I do think, and that's why I think it gets really hard for a lot of us. The Bible was translated so many times, and it was actually put together not by God or by prophets, but by a group of people who weren't even really Christian, and that's how it was compiled. So,
I mean, it was like
It-
100 years after it was that one really scholar, right?
My girlfriend used to go to.
yeah, but
I thought it
The
was
Creed
like
in
200
Nicene?
years after. Who was the
we're talking about the Creed in
scholar?
Nicene.
But I went with her a few times.
The Creed.
325. Yeah, I'm
It's
familiar
pretty
with that.
big.
That's not put together. The Gospels that were being circulated in the old times.
Oh, yeah,
were circulated
absolutely.
in groups.
Uh-huh.
They use like this huge auditorium there.
Yeah.
From the very first century of the Christian church. And not only that, but Paul's letters that he wrote, all those letters, they were all written on papyrus. And papyrus was around for 200 years. So even if you say, oh, well, that's not what it said.
I'm not saying they changed it completely, but I am saying it was translated a lot, so it's confusing.
Like I know it.
I can't think of his name, but that scholar.
I don't really like publicize it. Everybody here, like we're good friends.
Yeah.
Regardless of it all.
Like what kind of, that's what a lot of people say. The Jehovah's Witnesses say
Like what makes you
You know, I can.
that it was, there's a difference too between translation and transmission. Translation is,
I live
I
in
tell him,
West
he tells you, you tell him, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
writes it down. So that's transmission. That's very solid. That's transmission. The translation, yeah, there are a bunch of translations, but luckily for us, we have the original Greek and the original Hebrew.
You ever played the game Telephone?
It does not work that way. That's what I'm telling you. Those have to years. So for 200 years they had the authors, the originals, that they could go back and say, did I do this wrong? Right.
Yeah.
So they found, right? You heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? They have the Dead Sea Scroll of Isaiah. You heard of this? So this is dating to 150 years before Christ, right? They found it in 1940 something. And it was exactly the same. The book of Isaiah had no differences other than spelling and punctuation. The translation of the Bible.
I'll tell you what. I will look more into it. I will look more into it. But I definitely believe what I believe. Yeah. Yeah, you're good. No, yeah. It's a good debate. Yeah.
I don't think any religion has
People
any.
that have
What's true?
Yeah.
Everything is attracted to each other. Laws of gravity, science. That's like laws.
We're all liars have the part of like a liar. So even if being guilty of lying
Nobody then.
Trials,
Nobody then.
Facts that
Yeah.
happen consistently over and over.
Seems like you're
No.
under impossible standards.
No, it's not standard. That's what
Whereas
we're
like
saying.
religion,
So we cast ourselves at the mercy of Jesus.
And that's the idea of grace.
What you did wasn't enough. What you did was sufficient. Otherwise,
Yeah.
according to other belief systems, what was the point of Jesus dying? If I could be good enough,
That's not what we're saying at all. Yeah, we're not saying we have to be good enough under our own merit. I think that's where we're not jiving, but we're saying pretty much the same thing, but in different ways. And I don't know how to explain it, but
Is
it's
it justification to say that I believe in God and so
Because we believe that once you have been saved, God supernaturally regenerates your heart so that good works are a natural outpouring of love for Christ. What do you mean?
right? That's what you say.
No. I'm saying that there is a...
to repent and believe. Those are the two things required.
So you've told me to repent, right? So am I counting? Right? I was I've never been part of the Christian church. I've been in the Muslim church, right? Repented. Is it my need to repent right now? Because I know. You told me, you informed me. I know that I need to repent. I need to be saved by grace. But what if I say, it doesn't matter what I do, I can be a piece of shit, and the day on my death, God saved me by grace.
He says you will know them by their fruit. A good tree bears good fruit, and a bad tree bears bad fruit. If someone lives a horrible, wicked